Good afternoon. This is Lee McWhorter. This is the second session of Threats and Vulnerability, class that began last week. I had just gotten a Slack from James that he will be attending as soon as his router resets. So we will wait for James to show up here. And I am going to attempt to get all of my stuff up and running for a potential demo. Alrighty, this will be the panel. In this Threats and Vulnerabilities class, we use not only the topology, but a bunch of new virtual machines. So I am booting them all up in the background here. Good afternoon, James.
Hello.
How are you today, sir?
I'm doing all right. It was hot.
Is hot?
Very hot. Yes.
It's a little cooler here today. We got some rain that I almost thought was going to cancel our fireworks, but it ended before the night, and so we got our fireworks in. And then it's been a little cooler today, an overcast, so it's going to break because it's a balmy 91 here instead of 100.
Yeah, it was 93 and above 50% humidity all day.
Yeah, the humidity part's the worst, I think.
Yeah. I agree. It was hot.
So, how are you doing in the class? We're not really doing a review here. It's supposed to be class, but just where are you in the class? How far?
Like I've gone through, I think I'm on the Vulnerabilities 1 right now that I've going through. There's a lot there's a lot in that one.
Gotcha.
So far there's a lot.
That may be
so I've
wrong stuff.
I believe I've read through it. And then I haven't done the hands-on for him yet.
Okay.
But I did the hands-on for the first, lesson 6, I guess.
Spearfishing.
Yeah, but I had issues with it.
Okay, well, actually, maybe I haven't. Maybe I have set up right. I was setting up. That's the first thing. I didn't know. I thought you were a little further, but I only have so much window. It's actually one of the challenges is that I was trying to switch from Python to this. So I'm like shutting down Visual Studio, other stuff, and then bringing this up. And
yeah.
But nonetheless, I've got the VMs up. I can run through that one for you if you'd like. That's
well. It's not any major issue. I'm getting the emails. It sends. It does all that. The issue that I have is when I use the correct link, the 192.168.13.13, which is the link that it should be.
Yeah, it comes back to Cali.
Right. When it comes back to that, every time that goes to come up, I get a error message saying such and such file has already been created. Click OK, cancel, and it tries to bring up. What is that? What's the Python app again called for Python? Visual Studio Code is what it tries to bring up. But
on the Kali Linux machine, or on
when I'm
on the dev client.
On the dev client.
Really, it tries to bring up Visual Studio Code. What in the heck's going on there? Now, Visual Studio Code. I built that for another reason, and then it ended up being used here too, so it has all that dev stuff, but that shouldn't have. I've never seen that pop up in doing the Spearfish demo. are playing with that exercise. So that's
But the thing is when I set that link in the email to just go to 192.168.13.250, which is the one that we're copying, it goes right to it.
Well,
it opens up in the Firefox and does that.
Okay, let me just do this. I want to show you one thing. I'm going to go on a screen share for a second because it could be this. Okay, it's one thing that I mentioned in one of the other videos. And as you can see, I got a bunch of stuff up here. So setting up to do that one. Trying to minimize everything that's in my way. See my pretty new Wazoo background? Isn't that cool?
That is pretty neat.
So when you look at the Kali Linux here, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other ones that I've built for you folks, the other ones, the dev and the mail server, the net server, the dev client, the victim for you guys, is how it's being used. It's basically, they're all on that 192.168.13.x host only, right? And then the Kali, though, is actually got two network interfaces. And so when you come up here, you see this little button over here, this little symbol with power cables?
Yeah.
If you click on this, it brings up this screen. Gosh, my screen's still in the way here again. Okay.
Oh, hey, your thing's all in my way.
What? Did I move me and you?
Oh, I'm gonna pull mine up at the same time.
So if you look, there's two interfaces. And this is doing it wrong for me. I just booted this up, but this will be one thing I've got to go in and actually put it in the material as a little warning, because it's a simple fix. But what's supposed to happen, and I don't know why, it actually seems to be random. So I think it's a VirtualBox bug itself, because I set this up that Etho0 is supposed to be wired connection 1. And then Etho1, the second, is supposed to be the second connection, wired connection. So you can see that I just booted this up for this class, and you can see it's mapped to the wrong ones. And it's an easy fix because it'll do it dynamically. All you have to do is just either change 1 to 2 or 0 to 1. And as soon as you do that, it'll go offline, you see, and then come back online. And now these are going to the right places. But let me show you what happens, just so you, because this may be what happened. I actually have a theory here. Is that, like, if you do an if config on this thing, the first address should be, the Etho0 should be the one that's on this dummy network, and it should be 1313. And then we should be getting a NAT address, a 10, whatever. It could be 2.15, 3.15, 4.15, whatever your machine is set up. But it'll give you a NAT address. That way we can get out and get updates and things like that. If I switch this back to the way it was, the way that's wrong, and let it do its thing, and then rerun the if config, you'll see what happens is it makes my first address a host-only address, DHCP 56. Remember that? That's the default for host-only in VirtualBox. And then and then my second adapter, which is supposed to be NAT, gets to 1313, and that doesn't work. This doesn't. I mean, it'll let me still connect to those machines, but because of my default is the other one, I think we get some weird things. So check that when you do that again. Make sure that this is Etho1 is 2 and Etho0 is 1, and that your first IP is actually the one we want here. But then you have this host only 10 something something something. So
no, that right here is what you have here is exactly what mine is.
Okay, so as long as you have
like that's how it came up.
So then you should, if that's working correctly, then ideally, and I'll stop mine at the moment, maybe you ought to screen share yours. Let me see that, because I'm really curious. I don't know why the thing would do that. Actually, I've never seen that before, James. You may have, as always, been my canary in the coal mine, found something different. But I've been using these VMs, versions of these VMs in the pen test class too, and I have hundreds of people using them, and I've not seen it ever bring up Visual Studio Code. So this is unique to me. I'm curious what's going on here. I'd like to figure that one out. But yeah, if you've got everything else done, then you've done that may just be a glitch. We can test it a couple different ways to see what's going on there.
Like, yeah, because when I linked like the 250, the actual web, page, it went fine. It had no issue.
Yeah.
I can go to Firefox, and with all that stuff running, I can go into Firefox and go directly to that IP, and it'll work fine. It'll record everything. It'll take the password and all that in the thing. So there's just something not going right with the link itself.
Interesting. Well, the one thing I'm curious about is, I assume you did because I know you're that good, but you did that part of going over to the second terminal and fixing that in the code itself, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. That is really weird. The one thing I can think of, no, I'm not exactly sure. Like I said, I have not seen that. And if you can do what you just did by manually going to that page and getting it to capture, then yeah, you've done everything correctly. And so I'm not really worried about it, except for just curiosity. Like, why is that happening? Because I have yet to see it.
And I've tried like checking, like, in the right clicking and seeing if there were options to like open with certain applications or something like that. See if maybe for some reason there was some like weird default set or something like that, and there was no option for that either.
Yeah, no, it should go when you click those links. They should just open in Firefox. And you have to override those security exceptions, because that's what we're assuming a user would do, is just ignore it because they thought it came from IT. And you go ahead and click that link, and then it should take you over to that page. Obviously, as I said, I did it to shoot all the screenshots you see in the class. So obviously I got it, and I could do it again here. I did it. I actually, this. I'm doing that pen test class. In a way, the pen test class benefited this final threats and vulnerability, because since I wasn't completely finished, but I was also starting to have to work on preparing for the pen test, and I built actually these VMs for them, and then I've come back and decided they need to be part of some of these. That's actually why, like, the reason it's called Dev Client and it even has Visual Studio Code is because part of Pen Test Plus, you have to know Bash, PowerShell, Ruby, and Python, and so I'm going to use that VM on the dev side in that class. And, but I decided, because I was building, I could kind of, build them together, and then I could use them this way and I could use them that way. But I've used the same, not the ones that are YU labeled, but I made versions for the CompTIA pen test. And I've done this same demo, and while you're the first person to hit our copies, the same, they're actually the exact same thing. All just open source stuff. And the ones that the pen test people are using, there's 200 people in that class, 100 something of them have used it, and I haven't seen anybody see that. And I've done the demo, not only do the class, but just to practice it. I was ready to do it again today. And then, so that's really strange to me. I did have an issue when I was doing it for one of the sessions for pen test, that it ended up, because these are real machines, it's like Firefox got into this mode where it wanted to update, but it can't because it's on host only, and then it was causing me trouble. So I had to kind of do like you did. I had to actually manually go over there just to make it work. You know what I mean?
All right. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but I have my screen sharing now.
I see. Yeah.
Okay. So, like, as you can see here, I have gone through and done this like a bunch of times trying to figure out what was going on here.
It looks like mine until I went and cleaned mine up.
But, like, all right, so this one right here, we'll say this is the last one I did. And then by clicking here, yep, and then I go here. Like, hang on, this is the one. No, that's the one that I did. I did this one, like, to this one here, and it would, I think, usually brought it. Yeah, see, this one's bringing Firefox up.
Okay.
If you see up here in the top corner.
It's launching. That's what it's supposed to do.
And that's with the 250 one.
Oh, is that 250? Okay.
Hang on, let's see what's this one. Okay, now this one right here has the 1313.
Yep.
My computer's slow.
Oh, I know. When you get all these VMs running on top of themselves, it does slow down.
Yeah. It actually, I had to restart my computer the other day because it completely froze it up. Because I also had like 6 tabs open on Firefox as well.
Oh, yeah. You get a bunch of, it's like when I'm developing, I have all these pages of research. I have the stuff I'm working on. I have Visual Studio.
Okay.
I have all my VMs. Yeah, mine actually yesterday just decided to just spontaneously reboot because I hadn't rebooted it in a few weeks, and I should have known. Thankfully, I wasn't doing anything super
All
cool.
right. So here we go. Clicked on it. It's opening. See, it brought up Visual Code, Visual Studio Code, and then yeah,
That is strange.
and then that goes away, and then I get this right here.
What? KIL execute run already exist. That is strange. Okay, click on that and just mouse over that link again. The test.test that's in the email. Oh, it's okay. There it is. See, I don't see anything wrong with that URL.
Yeah, like I've tried and tried. Like it only does it with this particular, this one.
That is so strange. Well, you have definitely. I wish I could replicate that because I have never seen that before. I mean, I can't even think of why in the hell it would be trying to launch Visual Studio Code. It's not a .py for Python, or it's not a PS for PowerShell. It's not a program. It's a website. It's a URL. Why in the heck?
Right.
That is strange, my friend. Now that one, I'll have to do a little playing around. Maybe I can figure out how to replicate it. Can you show me on the like if you go to the Kali Linux VM, can you show me the code of that page it created? Like go to your second terminal and just do a more command on that index page so we can look at it in the set folder.
Hang on, I've got a few of these open.
But you've done it. Hey,
okay.
Dude, you've got this one. I've seen it.
See, like here it is. I still had this open right here and keeping it. Like it shows that I clicked on it right there and went to it.
That it's visited, you mean? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah. Like it showed that I tried to visit it, but for some reason it closes out and does that. So I have no idea either.
For giggles, click on Firefox over here in the top left. Bring Firefox to the foreground. It's open. You see, it's got a.
Is that what this is right here? Or?
Yeah, the Firefox icon, and it's got a little yellow dot and orange dot that shows you it's actually running.
Oh wait, I went over to. Sorry, I switched and it didn't.
Okay, I'm still seeing your this one, but yeah, bring Firefox. I just want to see what's up in Firefox.
All right.
I guess it's the 9th because it never came to the foreground in the first place. Even on the 251.
Oh yeah. Let me switch that right. That one right there. All right. So. There.
So, okay, it went to 250.
Now watch here, since it's right here.
Yeah.
They'll have it running.
So it's up and running and serving that fake version of the page.
Right.
Strange. Why is it trying to open? I have never seen that, James. You have found a unique one. I have never seen that one. And then it does what it's supposed to do, sends you back over, to the live site to do it again. And I'm sure if you switch to Kelly, you've got it captured, right? Because you've got the listener still opening on that.
Yep. Yeah, I can switch that and.
No, well, like I said, consider yourself done with that. You've got that and then some, but you found a little glitch. I don't know if it's a bug. I had a cache error from Firefox itself for me.
But there's that Kali open for you now.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, perfect. No, you've nailed it. That's perfect. I'm not gonna blame you for some weird glitch, obviously, but I've never seen that, James. I'm not trying to punt. You know me, I'll go fix stuff tonight if I find a problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not the issue, because as far as I know, that's just you. I don't know why, but I've never seen that on hundreds of installs now. No one has seen that or showed me that. I've seen all kinds of issues, of course.
Yeah.
And that networking issue has got to be one that I will go back in and add a little note of, double check to make sure that the Etho 1 is on wired 1, Etho 0 is on wired 1, Etho 1 is on. That's all you need to do. Then everything works like it's supposed to. That's the only glitch, and it's weird because I literally one day I sat here, James, and I booted up Kali and shut it down. I booted up Kali and I shut it down. I deleted it, re-imported it from the Wazoo copy, booted up, shut it down, saw the same behavior. I deleted it, re-imported it from the pen test copy, deleted it, rebooted up again, and like every other time, sometimes it would come up perfect. 192.168.13.13, and then the host. Other times, one night, the opposite. The DHCP would be first, and the hard coded would be on the host, and nothing would work. I mean, you could still get to the machines on the host only because it is still on that network. You know what I mean? But it couldn't get out anymore.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that is a weird one though. The Python trying to launch Visual Studio Code. Okie dokie. I don't know what's going on there.
But then it closes out and shows that. So I'm like,
yeah, I don't even know what that is. KIO. I assume that what that is, and this may just be some other glitch or conflict. I'm not sure, but that desktop is, if I remember correctly, is called KDE. The desktop that they use by default in Ubuntu, if I'm right, is called KDE. It's just the GUI, the GUI part. So, and there's a lot of, then when you have KDE running, you see a bunch of K stuff running. If you look at your processes like K worker and all these K process. So that KIO, I think maybe that it's having an IO, that's throwing an error. I don't know why, but those two facts that I think it's that there's, and it may just be like an association or pathing issue. But like I said, I've never seen that. That makes me scratch my head for sure. But no, you've done it. So yeah, don't worry about that one anymore. I can definitely grade you complete on that one. I've seen it, and that's part of these classes and the one-on-one sessions. We can do that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, that's strange though. That is definitely a unique one, James. So I'll dig around a little bit, and if I see it again.
I was mostly working on that yesterday. And but I'm like, I'm not going to bother him on the 4th because I know if I was it's one I was just going to leave you alone anyway. Well, I was working through what I could, and then
I'm actually really impressed. The week before, as I was taking, or over the last couple of weeks, as I've been taking over the mentoring too, I basically, we had set up, like you and I are going to meet right after this, right? That's and so we'll have our one-on-one officially, and and I have 3 people that are scheduled for Wednesday as of a week ago, but none of us I don't think were looking, or if they were, I wasn't. And so I got that all scheduled. I put it in recurring appointment in my calendar. I sent them the appointment invite in my calendar, and then I looked and realized, oh crap, next Wednesday's the 4th. And so I was like, I actually can do it. My wife was out of town helping her folks with some stuff down in San Antonio until later in the evening anyway. And so I actually, starting the 1st of this week, sent all 3 of them an email and said, I know it's the 4th. I didn't think about that when we set up our recurring. I'm happy to reschedule. And they all did it. I got all 3 of them done yesterday. So they were working at different times. And, I actually still managed to step out and watch my neighborhood fireworks display. So it was.
Yeah.
So
I worked on this for a while, and then I went up to a friend's house that I was invited to.
Gotcha.
So.
Well, let me talk to you about the other ones. And vulnerabilities, the types of vulnerability chapter, easy stuff, really. It's the last conceptual chapter and then, of course, the last ones all get hands-on. So you said you were just starting to get into vulnerabilities 1, right? That's that one.
Yeah.
Okay, let me talk you through a couple things because I don't think you're going to have any trouble, but I'll just hit the high points as we sort of cover this in the class session here today. Because we've in a sense now covered the social engineering, and then the vulnerabilities is just a lot more depth about vulnerabilities. But now in lesson 8, you're going to still be using these new VMs, right? Like we used for social engineering. So you're going to use the Kali Linux VM, and you can put away the net server and the dev client, okay? And then you can just bring up Metasploitable 2. Metasploitable 2, in this case, the one in the topology is a version I built on Docker. So underneath, it really has a newer version of Ubuntu. So a few things don't work in that like they do in the real one, because this one uses an old Debian, underlying Linux. So even its kernel's got exploits, for gosh sakes, and none of those work in my Docker. Most of it works, and all the services still work. But one of the ones I wanted to demo because it dovetails into, if you remember way back in Network Foundations, you had a lesson where you had to set up the keys, right? So that you could connect to a standalone Ubuntu server without having to log in with your username and password. You remember that whole stuff?
Yes.
So you
Yes.
created a key. Well, high level, what you're going to do in this attack is you're going to do that and exploit the network file share that they stupidly have set up to basically get yourself root access. That's the high level of what you're going to do. Because what NFS is, network file system, is a way for primarily, I mean, Unix boxes, because we use SMB on Windows, but you can run SMB on Linux. That's Samba. You can run NSF on Windows too. But anyway, they're just protocols, right? So, but it allows you to basically export a share. It's just like any other sharing. One machine says, here you go, I'm sharing this, and another machine can connect and map to it. And so they, of course, in this highly vulnerable VM, they have a bad network share, pretty much sharing the whole root file system out, the whole hard drive. And so what you're going to end up doing, it's a lot of steps. It's a lot of pictures, really, more than anything else. It's really not as complex as it may look. But you're going to create your own key combo on the on your Kali Linux machine, and then you're going to also have to add like the NSF common, tools, and you're going to run some scans and verify that yes, that is vulnerable, that's over there. And then what you're going to be doing is using the ability to mount that remote drive to basically do what we did in Network Foundations. You're going to add your key to the authorized keys for the root user, and then boom, you're in and you have full root access. It's a cool demo, and it definitely shows what happens if you don't do file permissions right when you share stuff and you share too much. So it's a cool little demo. It looks like it's a lot, but it's actually, you're just making some keys, you're doing some scans and confirming the vulnerabilities there. Then you make your keys. Then you're going to learn about mounting the drive, because you're going to mount that drive. And then you're going to see that what you're doing is then you're going to copy into the roots folder, into his .ssh, and you're going to tag your key onto his authorized keys, and then you're going to log in, and boom, you're going to be on his root. Pretty cool little demo, I think. And that was one that was always, and actually both of these were always planned for this class. The 10 got changed a little bit thanks to Pentest too, and then the social engineering got much better because of some of the stuff I built and then ended up building in here. Then you're going to go briefly back to the topology for 9, okay? So don't let that freak you out. Technically, you could do it in the new versions, the new VMs, but there's a couple reasons why. And so you're going to go back to the topology, and you're going to be playing with the damn vulnerable web app. And then last time, you remember, we played with it. We had to, you have to go over there with the Firefox browser and create the database and set the security level back down to low. And then we could do our SQL map injections and all that we did in network defense. In this class, you're going to play with a couple other forms of injection, both command injection and file injection or file upload vulnerabilities. And we're going to combine the two in a sense. You're going to use the ability of a vulnerable file upload to basically put your own netcat. And I wanted to build that into this class because it's an important tool. And you're going to basically then be able to use another part of the damn vulnerable to pass in some extra commands. And you're going to be able to inject these commands, which will allow you to both change the permissions on that file you just uploaded and then run it to create a shell back to yourself. And then, of course, theoretically, you could go from there. So I hope you find both of those really cool to do. There's a lot of pictures, but really in some ways it's not a lot of steps. I'm showing all the detail, and you should be able to get to it fairly quickly.
I've noticed most of those actually go, and most of the time the length of time it seems to take for some of this stuff is just waiting on my computer.
There is a lot of, and I tried to balance, to be honest, even though, we want people to have 8, some people have even more. I'm still running, I can get it done on 6. But yeah, that definitely, I tested it all the way back on 4. It is a time thing, so I tried to balance that somewhat. I didn't put both of these in one lesson, because just the sheer time of half the time being waiting on the machines to process sometimes and get it all booted up and running and everything else.
Well, I've got 8. My computer's 5 years old though, still too.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. This laptop's not quite that, but it's back when I taught at ITT, so it's a number of years. And so I need to get me a new one of these days. But so far, like I said, I make it work. The one I wanted to talk to you a little bit about in more detail while we got a little bit more time in our session for class is 10. 10, there's the reason it's so important, and I'm probably going to continue to beef up on it. I'm definitely trying to cover it both in that lesson and try to provide some additional information. And then when you get into the final project, but there's a dovetail here going on. I think I've told you before, that's what you're going to end up doing, having to build a capture the flag thing. So I hope you have a lot of fun. The first part of it's just high level red team, blue team, which of course the red team is the attack team, simulated attackers, the blue team is the defending team. Sometimes the red team may be outsiders like third-party pen testers. Sometimes companies are big enough to literally have those teams, inside that are constantly working with each other. And then there's the idea of the purple team. Some people have a purple team, and some people think a purple team is a complete waste of time. It may be one of those few things like security by obscurity and the arguments around what are the best flags to use to run an nmap scan. One of the few things that's kind of controversial in our field. But that's just the first third of that's kind of conceptual to expose you to that and provide a little more depth. Then we go into the other VM, which I hope you'll have a lot of fun with, actually. That's the ridiculously easy VM. And it is one of the virtual machines that you can actually get from VulnHub out there. And I just repackaged it to make it work with an R setup, and so you'll import that in if you haven't already, along with the others. You really don't need anything but Kali and it, to do that exercise and to work with that. And of course, you just go to town on it. Do all the things you've learned now. Run scans, check things out, see what you can do, see if you can get in, try to log in, see if you can break in, and you're along the way will get hints and find these flags. And then, of course, I provide some information to close out that chapter on what you would do to go further to beat it than the base stuff, and a few hints and tricks, and then a little bit of information about how you might design one at a higher level. I think a link or two. If not, I know there's some resources. And then, of course, when you get into the final project, we'll work together over those weeks to help you build one. And then, like I said, I'll give you another one to play with on your side of the attack, and I'll take a shot at yours. And so I think that's pretty much, that's what you're left with. And it looks like you're in really good shape as you head into the week, because you've got everything else beyond that done. I've seen your 6 now, and I assume, knowing you, that the 1 through 5 are in solid shape. So
yeah, I got a little bit of writing I still got to do, but the other stuff I've already done.
Okay, cool.
Like all the stuff that is in like the things. Although some of it I forgot to take the screenshots for, so I have to just run through those again. But those didn't take necessarily all that long to begin with.
So you can upload them. Yeah, I noticed you hadn't uploaded quite all the way as far as you seem to be now, and I'm glad to see that. That's cool. You seem to be in really good shape. I'm gonna actually be. Yeah. I'm gonna obviously we'll finish up with anything else you want in the class time. Take a quick break and then come back for our one-on-one. Just if nothing else, to break the video, and we'll post that part. We'll post this part, not that part. That's our private part. And then we can go over some things. You can show me some stuff actually if you want to. That way you don't even have to necessarily do the screenshots like right now. That's one of the things that I think is the folks there. I like what we're doing with this model of this new system now. The last couple classes we've had this drag and drop stuff, but since I've become the mentor, I've realized that, I didn't know that. And I wish Joey had mentioned something before. Like, we really need to probably tweak the text a little bit to explain some things. Like, when it was before just all in the lesson, and then you just got to your mentor and showed them, you show me your stuff. Like, I just saw your 6. Check, done. That's solid. That's cool. And in many cases, that may be as we go forward, and, you're almost done. But even with the other students, that's going to be the best model, really, just to still show it. But the other thing is there might need to be some tweaking of the instructions to say, okay, if you are going to submit it through this, then make sure you take screenshots that show you did it, because I had somebody shoot me some screenshots they uploaded for an earlier class, lesson 2, whatever. When I looked at them in the system, I'm like, okay, I kind of see what we did here, but that's not what they asked for. You know what I mean? And so if you're doing firewalls, I better see the firewall rules, right? Or you should send me the firewall rules as a notepad so I know what you did. You know what I mean? So there probably needs, before it was all show your mentor, show your instructor, or just, write. So the stuff that's like writing a paper or doing whatever, that's great for that. You upload the Word document. Great. Cool. I love it. But
See,
when it comes to the other stuff, I'm probably going to have to go back in the revision cycle and say, okay, for these types of assignments, make sure you shoot multiple screenshots that show that you did all the steps and then submit them as a zip file. Because otherwise, I might as well just see it. Because if I get one picture of one piece, how do you show me social engineering? You showed me it all. The email, the listener, the capture, the password. I saw it. Doom. Well, you got to do that virtually. You got to shoot me screenshots of each of them. Not every step, but like the final. Here's my listener. Here's the email. Here's the capture. Boom. And I'm done. But
yeah, that's what I try to do because a lot of times on a lot of my stuff, I don't, by the time it's when I'd have my meeting with Joy, I generally didn't have a lot of that stuff done yet because most of my time that I have to get stuff done is on the weekend. I've here recently been most of the time dedicate most of my weekend to getting this stuff done because that's when I actually have the time to sit down here and do it.
Yeah.
So that's when I do that. And so I just try to make sure as I'm going through, I'm like, what are the things in here that actually show that I did what I need to do? Like sometimes it's like a screenshot here at the end pretty much shows, hey, all this stuff's in place like it should be, and bam. And sometimes it's like, well, the whole thing I kind of need to go through and screenshot for each step and try to go through it that way.
And I think you're doing good, and a couple of the other students are, and then a couple of them, this is still adapting. And I think it also kind of comes down to some people were more used in the old model to just showing Joy, and then some, because of their schedules, would then still end up sending it to her, later, like you would. And so, so like I said, it's not anybody's fault. There's no issue, no complaint. That was something that I wrote them the way you originally saw them. Just, the page would just go down. Here's exercise, exercise, exercise. That was a whole section. And now it's been broken into like a sub page. It shows the same but that's actually the way it's different. They went in and did that. The back end people, the curriculum, the other part of the team, they did that to every class just based on their new template. And the template's cool, but I think because we weren't didn't know when I wrote most of those that template was coming. There's no instructions about how to use the submit, and sometimes it's obvious like a Word doc, and other times it's not really clear because it says show the instructor, show the mentor. So in the case of showing me, if you had not showed me all three things, I could say, okay, James, I need to see one more thing. Okay, I see it. I check. But here, like I said, I think we're just going to have, you're doing fine, but I'm going to have to, for some of them, and as the program grows and people come on, probably go back and make a little pass and go, okay, if you're turning this in through this mechanism as opposed to the one-on-one weekly meeting with your mentor, you'll need to at least show these things, a picture of the complete, a picture of this and the log capture, a picture of this and the code. You see what I mean? Things like that. And if I make some just small suggestions, I think that, and then zip it up and send it to us or copy and paste it into a Word document and send it to us, I think that'll make things easier. But you seem to be on it and doing really well here. I'm going to be doing some grading a little tonight. I'll be doing some over the tomorrow as well and into the weekend because I got to get it all closed so we can progress all you folks. Oh, cool. And one of your fellow students just slacked me that they figured out their code problem. So that's a good thing for that class. So yeah, we got a small group, but everybody's doing really well right now. Do you have anything else for this class section per se? Any questions? Anything?
Well, not that I've gotten to yet, at least.
Okay, and of course, and you could have reached me yesterday. I appreciate you not. I was in and out of Slack all day, actually, helping with even full stack people. And I talked, as I said, I had the 3 one-on-ones. But anytime, just drop me a message. I'll happily get with you. I have office hours tonight at 7. We're going to meet here in a few minutes then. Why don't I do this? And it's up to you, however you want to do it that way. I need to take a little bit of a break here, and then I'll start right back up right about 5 when we're supposed to meet, right? We can have our quick one-on-one.
Yeah.
And that'll give you a little time. You can make a decision yourself. Consider yourself done with 6, but if you want to show me anything else previous to just get those checked off, then you can. So you might want to set up to show me any of that. and then you can just show me and we'll be done. I can check those off and I can go in and do some grading tonight. And if you don't have the time or can't get it all set up in time, whatever, then feel free to just send me the screenshots like you were going to do, and that'll be fine. Or submit them through the system, and I'll get to them later. But that's an option for you, and then we can just do a quick. And if you want to show me stuff, I'll happily. So anyway.
Now, I wasn't particularly worried for sending you a screenshot for lesson 1 because that's just setting up all the GNS3 stuff. Which as soon as I showed you the hands on there, that'd be covered.
Yeah, we always make lesson 1 a practice because that was actually one of the things when the choice of which ones get graded or not versus practice was actually they were going to make the decision as strictly as simple as pretty much every other one, and always assuming that the first is usually a setup, so not required. But it is required because if you don't do that, you can't do any of the other ones, right? So it kind of makes sense that it's only a practice. But it's also exactly, I can easily grade it, for almost everybody. Once I've met with them or see anything else turned in, then I know you did that. If you couldn't have done it. So yeah, that's actually fine. Exactly. So you're spot on, James. That's exactly how I've been doing it with people. Because, and most of us that, once you've gotten through network defense, actually once you've gotten through once you've gotten through
network foundations
and network defense, you're pretty much done. And you have to re-import a new project. That's it, and you keep rocking along. And then the VMs here, but they're also, once again, your VMware should have been set up and running a long time ago, or we've had a problem before now, right? Because it's all related.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's you're spot on. You don't have to do anything about that one per se.
Which I did have an issue with running all these 3 together at first because my what is that the
VM ran out of space, right?
No, I mean, like when I first started doing the lesson 6, none of my stuff was connected because of the networks. I didn't have the VBox net set up for some reason. That had not been there. I had to reset that up. It took me a minute to figure that out.
Oh, you mean the virtual host adapter itself? That's in like under virtual host manager? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, the virtual network manager.
Yeah. You know what that actually was, dude? Let me ask you this question before I say this, because I got to be clear. Is your VirtualBox adapter, if you go look at that, does it now say VirtualBox host only Ethernet adapter number 2?
No.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I still think it's the same theory. This laptop now says number 2, but my desktop in there still says number 1. But actually, in both of the cases, I had to redo it. I don't know why this one got to number 2, so that may be a slightly different glitch here. But what happened is the most recent, like April Windows Creator or what, and you may not have gotten it until later because they stage them out. You can put it off for a while. I don't know how often you do updates, but the last big kind of feature update, Creator Update 2 or whatever they called it in April or something this year, it food up my VirtualBox adapter on host only on every one of them. So
I'm actually I do all my stuff for this stuff. All my stuff that I do for the classes is all done on Ubuntu.
Gotcha.
So like right now I'm using Ubuntu over Windows, mainly just because I had a lot of issues back in an earlier class getting my stuff to work right on Windows, and I had significantly less issues doing it from Ubuntu.
Gotcha. Well, so you're actually using like your base as an Ubuntu machine, and then you run these VMs and everything on top of that?
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. Then I think you're unique. We have a number of Mac users who are using basically Windows machines, and then about half, or I would say a couple Mac users, I guess, a Linux now, and then one, and the rest are Windows. It'll run on any. So I guess I was wrong in that case. It may be something similar though, because you had to have a host only at some point because GSN3 wouldn't have worked. It needs the host only.
Yeah, which is the other reason why I was kind of confused there. I'm like, where did it go between downloading these and there? Because I'm like, I had no issues with running the stuff on GNS3.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I don't. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was a combination. Like maybe I didn't see it until I rebooted for that, and maybe it was a VirtualBox update. But something changed and caused, like every machine that I have VirtualBox on, I had to redo my VirtualBox host only adapter.
Well, I haven't updated my.
And about half of my pen test students have had this problem. And they, of course, many of them like were brand new. They just installed it. By default, you should get that out of the box. And then they're installing it and telling me it's not there. And I'm like, huh? So I don't know. Like I said, there may be like, we may be in the version, like whatever this is, we're all in right now, this version, because you had to update too, remember, to get the extension pack to run Kali. So we're all using the latest version of VirtualBox. And there's some weirdness going on. So we may just, every program's got bugs. So like that network changing every other time I reboot Kali, that's weird. I mean, I literally re-imported, rebuilt it, tried it all. And every time I just do it. And every other time it's right. Every other time it's not, give or take, 2 and 3 or whatever. So why is that doing that? Why did your damn thing just bring up Python? I've never seen that one. I would say of all the students, I mean, in that pen test class, we have about 100 a night attend, about 180 or 200 total that are doing it because it's video too. They can take it, other times. And some people are on the other side of the world, so they're asleep during the class, so they just watch the video. But I've talked to about 40 different individuals individually. Like they'll email me or text me or, Slack me or whatever. I've chatted with them just like students, helping them get through some of like we had, okay, well, you need to do this, okay, re-import the project. Let's see if we can fix it. And I've helped them all get done. And I've run into that missing virtual host only adapter a bunch of times, 6, 7 times. And it happened to me, and now it's happened to you, and across Mac, PC. So it's not. Maybe it is VirtualBox. Maybe it's not. I was thinking it was that Windows update because it did it to me, and it did it to my wife's machine, and it did it and all of them are Windows 10. But some of my students saw it happen on Mac, and now you're telling me it's happened on Ubuntu. It had to be there, or you couldn't have worked before, and then it went away. Why? That's the mystery. But it's happened to multiple students. So anyway, another.
I've had that actually happen to me before too. But
it's a virtual adapter, and so I've actually thought on Windows that it made sense because there was a pretty big security update in that update. So I figured it was something that screwed up, blocked that network, killed it, said, what's this? Well, funny enough, it's never messed with my VMware stuff, ever. So that's strange. But VirtualBox and VMware do things a little differently. VirtualBox just has the one virtual adapter for host only, and then uses a different mechanism to do the NAT. And the VMware actually has 2 virtual adapters, one for host only and one for NAT. If
only VMware was free.
Well, you can get it for Linux free.
Huh.
You can get it every place but Mac. Mac's the only people who get screwed. There's only a version called VMware Fusion. I own it. I had to buy it for my Mac. Primarily because I wanted to build Mac virtual machines, and the only way you can build a virtual machine on a Mac is on a Mac because their license agreement for their OS requires it to be on Mac hardware. So technically, even though I have done that, you can build what they call a Hackintosh, a Mac that'll run as a VM on other platforms, but you got to do a lot and messing with it. Even the one I built once for one purpose, I even had to actually plug in a Mac keyboard to kind of trick it into thinking it wouldn't work with anything else. If I plugged a Mac keyboard and it went, oh, you're a Mac, and it booted up, even though it was on Windows. But so that was a little kludgy, but it worked, right? In the case, there's ways around that. And then of course, I just wanted to, I have a couple Macs, but my main Mac is kind of one of my production boxes, so I can't screw with it. But I wanted to screw with some stuff on the Mac side. So I got VMware Fusion so that I could run a VMware, and I could have just used VirtualBox, but I have both on all platforms now. But yes, I do own VMware Fusion. But you can get Workstation Player for free, non-commercial use for Windows and Linux, but you can't get it for Mac. So that's something.
Try it out at some point.
Yeah, you can. They cohabitate well. You just can't run them at the same time.
Right.
You got to do. Actually, on my main authoring, my main work production desktop, a lot of the stuff that, because you never see it, you don't know. Actually, I mainly use VMware, and so actually, most of the development work and most of the work that I've done, even the projects, I was actually using GSN3 powered by VMware in the background. It doesn't matter; it's just a VM, right? And and then the projects are GNS3 projects, irrespective of what platform they go to. But I actually have also done I have both. I have VirtualBox and I have VMware. Both have a GNS3 VM, and so one of the things that I've done sometimes is to test. So I might make something over here, like the little VLAN project, for example, or even our whole topology, and I would make it in virtual. It would be using VMware. But then when I exported the portable project, I would then I would shut down VMware and go into my GNS3 settings and change from VirtualBox from VMware back to VirtualBox, then boot up that VM and restart GNS3. And now I'm talking to that VM, which was empty, fresh. And I would re-import that project in to make sure everything worked. And I just had to start and stop the VMs and change the settings. You just can't run them at the same time. So
Yeah.
cool. All right. Well, if you got nothing else, I only got a few minutes here. I guess we'll shut this down, let the video stop, and give me 7 minutes, and I'll restart the room. I got to do something real fast in between, though.
Just if you need a few minutes, just take a few minutes. Just message me on Slack when you're ready to start back up, and I can join in then.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do it. If it should be right at 5, but if I need another minute or two, I'll send you a Slack before I start it back. All right.
Well, that gives me a couple more minutes to get this set back up.
That's cool. I'll take a few.
Run through this.
Thanks. I'll go give me some. I've been stuck in this room for about 3 hours straight, so I think I'm gonna go after class.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give me some tea and use the restroom. So I'll be back.
All right.
I'll let you know. Thanks.
All right.